Should she be closing her eyes like that? I hear my dad ask. The last thing I remember before passing out is the nurse reading off my vitals next to the bed. Her temperature is 92, and her heart rate is dropping. Let's back up. For some background, I've always had chronic issues with my health, ever since I was a baby. I got sick all the time and couldn't even be breastfed. My BMI, which should have been between 18% and 25%, dropped down to less than 5%. Most doctors dismissed it as something I would grow out of. This continued intermittently until I was 7 years old, when my GI doctor discovered that I had a rare form of food allergy called EGD, eosinophilic gastroenteritis. This was good news. My parents and I were thrilled to finally understand the reason for all my health problems. For a while, my family was happy knowing that all we needed to do was cut out dairy. We thought that would be it. But it didn't end there. During middle school, I still had stomach cramping, gastric reflux, and general discomfort, even though we avoided the food that triggered EGD. I underwent more than 4 colonoscopies and endoscopies trying to understand what the problem was, and they diagnosed me with stomach ulcers, sores on the lining of your stomach, caused by a buildup of acid. I kept a good attitude. One more thing to take care of. I smiled and laughed it off, hoping it would just feel better. Of course, it wasn't. High school brought more issues. I was diagnosed with gastroparesis, which means part of my stomach is paralyzed and can't move food properly. Also, I had begun to experience sadness and a lack of motivation, as well as weight gain, trouble sleeping, and I noticed my skin and nails had become thinner and more brittle. I tried not to let it interfere with my schoolwork or activities because I had grown accustomed to just not being healthy. These minor things didn't really bother me. If only I knew they weren't minor at all. The stomach pain persisted for no apparent reason. The doctors had no answers and just attributed it to me not following my strict diet or regimen of medicine. My family discussed possible causes around the dinner table, but I was sick and tired of it. I was tired of the doctor's appointments, procedures, medication, and most of all, the agonizing stomach trouble. That night, during a particularly bad bout of discomfort, I remembered the bottle of oxycodone inside the medicine cabinet from when I had a tooth filled. Oxycodone numbs discomfort, right? My family was asleep, so I crawled over to the cabinet, uncapped the bottle, and prepared to swallow the 5 chalky white tablets inside. A voice in the back of my mind asked, "Is this what you really want? You know this isn't the right thing to do. You could hurt yourself." I've always been impulsive though, and at this point, I didn't care. I was done sitting at a table and talking about my test results. I wanted something to make the discomfort go away. Please, I thought, please, I just want to be healthy again. Anything to numb the stomach trouble. And after all, this is just more medicine, right? I took the oxycodone and went to sleep. During the night, it was hard to tell if I was awake or asleep. I felt like I was floating, which put a giddy smile on my face. I don't remember much, only waking up and feeling the after effects of what I had done. I was sweaty, shaking, nauseated. My mom went downstairs in the kitchen getting breakfast ready before school, so I crawled to the top of the stairs and sat there waiting for her. I could hardly do much else. When she saw me, she just hesitantly asked, "You okay?" I bit my lip, on the verge of tears. I didn't want her to know what I had done. I felt so guilty. But a wave of vertigo hit me, and I knew I needed help. I told her what I had done, and her and my dad agreed I needed to go to the emergency room. As we drove, white fog started to obscure my vision. I should have been panicking, but all I could think of was that I didn't really feel much. I was nauseated, yes, but the normal stomach problems I felt from my stomach conditions was gone. And for that reason, I didn't worry too much. I could hardly stand. My head was lolling, and all I wanted to do was go back to sleep. We got to the emergency room, and instantly, a nurse escorted us into a room where wires and tubes began popping out of my arms. I was used to this though, from my many stays in the hospital, so I wasn't worried, even if my dad was. Sinking into the clutches of sleep, I can remember the doctor saying, "If that's her temperature, we're going to need more tests." I woke up facing my mother, which instantly filled me with shame and regret. I said, "I'm sorry," over and over, on the verge of tears because I felt so guilty. I always wanted my parents to be proud of me, but I felt like I was just a burden, racking up medical bills and now landing us in the hospital for something that was my own fault. At least I wasn't shaky or feverish anymore, and after getting sick once, I almost felt like I was ready to go home. But the doctor came in and informed us that there was something unusual about my situation. My blood test had come back positive for opioids, which we already knew. But after seeing my temperature and heart rate so low, and hearing about the minor symptoms in the months leading up from my parents, they had tested me for something called Hashimoto's disease, and the test result was positive. I was confused at first. After years of being in and out of GI doctors' offices, this wasn't a term I was familiar with. Did that have anything to do with my stomach? It's an autoimmune disease, we were told. It happens when the body attacks the thyroid gland in your neck and causes the whole body's process to slow down. This leads to symptoms such as hair loss, weight gain, brittle nails, dry skin, and chronic stomach trouble. As murky as my feverish brain felt, I could practically hear the puzzle pieces clicking together. Wait, those were all things I had. This disease was causing all those? Another round of tests confirmed that I did have Hashimoto's disease, which was why I had been experiencing all those things like weight gain and stomach problems. It was like a light bulb went off for me and my parents. Despite this information, I wanted to shout for joy and jump. This explains so much. Everything makes sense now. It wasn't the best situation, but at least I had what I always wanted: answers. The mysterious stomach trouble that seemed to have no cause finally had one. I could see the light at the end of the tunnel. It's lucky you caught it when you did. Otherwise, it could have gotten very bad. I was confused. She had said my prognosis looked good. All I had to do for this was take a small pill every day. Oftentimes, if this goes untreated, the symptoms can worsen and patients can fall into a coma. I didn't know what to think. It was like two opposing forces in my brain. One that was happy I had overdosed, because it led us to find out this information that explained my stomach problems and potentially saved my life. But the other scolded me for thinking that what I did was good. People die from overdoses. Did I really want to merit something an addict would do? I was torn. I didn't know what to feel. My parents were mostly relieved that I was getting better in more ways than one. Soon after I started taking the medicine, I became healthier and my grades picked up. My hair grew strong and shiny, and my mom even said I had a healthy glow she hadn't seen in a very long time. My stomach trouble was a distant memory, now that we knew why it had been such a long and difficult diagnosis. The doctors don't think we would have caught it if I hadn't come into the emergency room with my vitals presenting the way they did. And although a lot of people with Hashimoto's can go their whole life without undergoing treatment since the symptoms aren't terrible, a lot of them still end up in the hospital or need surgery to remove their thyroid. Guilt and appreciation were some of the strongest emotions this made me feel. I regret taking the oxycodone because of how bad it was, but I chose to appreciate that I was still given life and that my life didn't end there. I will never condone what I did because of the guilt I felt at seeing my parents' faces, but I can say, I think we are closer having been through what we have. When I look at my parents' faces now, I don't see what they felt from seeing me so unhappy, and that is why I choose to look on the bright side to this day. Life gives you unexpected challenges and hardships, but finding a way to look at them through a positive lens can be extremely beneficial. Making the most out of a bad situation can be hard. However, if you are able to, you can think about what you have gained on your path to the situation, and how if things had not happened the way they had happened, something good, even if it's minor, may not have come out of it.